What's going on, y'all? It's me, Jace, and welcome back to the channel. We're going to be doing mock draft 3.0 today. Mock draft 2.0 hit over 1,000 views, which is insane to me. It's my second mock draft. It was pretty well received, and so why not come back with the mock draft 3.0? We are so close to the draft. And it's inching closer and closer, and I'm so excited for it. It is the best time of the year. It's like Christmas for us draft nerds, and so we're gonna jump into mock draft 3.0 here. Of course, I'm using the Draft Network. I do encourage you, if you are just getting into mock drafts, I encourage you to use the Draft Network. The only thing is, if you don't pay for the premium, which is I believe $9.99 a month, or you can get it for $30, annually, which is what I do. And you can just do mock trades, and it's a very good simulator. So that's what we're using here. So we're going to jump into it. So of course we're going to start the mock draft. I'm going to select all teams. I don't know why it's doing that, but I'll select all teams. We'll start the draft as we do one round. Of course, the first pick in the NFL draft is going to be Trevor Lawrence. So we get to the second pick here, and it's the New York Jets. Everybody was pretty confident that Zach Wilson would be the pick, but after Sam Darnold was traded to the Carolina Panthers, we can pretty much Sharpie it in. He still has little shoulder injuries that kind of, can creep back up at any time, but he's a really good player. He's going to join a team that has Jamison Crowder and, 2020 second rounder Denzel Mims at wide receiver, a team that added Tevin Coleman and Tyler Kroft and Corey Davis in free agency. And he'll finally have a competent head coach and a GM who is trying his best to get this team together. But they got a whole bunch of draft picks coming up in these next few drafts, and they're going to get the opportunity to build their team around Zach Wilson. And I'm excited to see that. So Zach Wilson is going to be the pick here. Pick 3 is going to be the San Francisco 49ers. Justin Fields is tumbling down draft boards, and it's typical. We know how this goes with certain quarterbacks. I talked about it with Lamar Jackson in 1.0. When suddenly Justin Fields has work ethic issues and he only knows one read. I call BS on that. Justin is a top quarterback, and it's a crime if he falls out of the top 10. It is a bigger crime if Mac Jones goes before him. Justin Fields is a consistent quarterback. He is electric. He can run. He can do everything that you want to do with an NFL quarterback in this generation. And passing on that, I think you should be fired for passing on that, especially when your quarterback now is Jimmy Garoppolo. Absolutely. So we're gonna go ahead and select Justin Fields here. The Atlanta Falcons are on the clock next, and as you can tell by the Draft Network, and if you watch any kind of film, that the Atlanta Falcons have a really big hole on their defense. It's not a particular position. It's just every position on defense can use an upgrade if you're the Atlanta Falcons. But in 2.0, I had the Falcons taking Surtain at 13 after a couple of trade downs. But, I'm on the Kyle Pitts train. Like, I know Falcons fans are going to be like, we need defense. And I agree. You need defense badly. But Kyle Pitts is such a matchup nightmare where it's like, it's almost like when you're a team and you get to, you need defense, but, a receiver's there or really get tight ends there or a quarterback falls to you. And it's like, well, I have to take him because that's the best available player. It's not need, because I believe in BPA. Best player available. I don't care if you are the Kansas City Chiefs. If you get to pick 32 and Devontae Smith is there, you don't even need Devontae Smith. Take him. Just because. He's the best player. That's what I believe in. That's my mentality. Reaching on an edge rusher here, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Reaching on Jalen Phillips or Azeez Ojulari or Kwity Paye just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sorry, Falcons fans. We got to get the next Tony Gonzalez, hopefully. So we're going to take Kyle Pitts here. The Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock, and I know I complained quite a bit about how you need to get an offensive lineman to protect the quarterback. But it's almost like you know, I don't have them taking an offensive lineman here because I have something planned later in the draft that we'll talk about, right? So T. Higgins was the 2020 second round wide receiver, and he had a pretty good rookie year. 908 yards on 67 receptions. That's good, you know, but I think T. Higgins is a very good number 2 receiver. There's a receiver in this draft that played with Joe Burrow at Louisiana State University. So we're going to go ahead and select Jamar Chase and his 20 touchdowns, which was thrown to him by the guy who happens to be the quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals. It's perfect. You get a weapon. The offensive line position is deep in the draft. So is wide receiver. But I think you have 3 really good receivers, and then there's somewhat of a drop-off. I think after Penei Sewell and Rayshawn Slater, you can still get a starting offensive lineman. You know, I don't think you're going to get a number 1 receiver in the second round with guys like Elijah Moore and Rondale Moore and Tutu Atwell and all those guys. I don't think those are going to be your, you know, number 1 receiver come day one. I don't believe that. So pick 6. It's going to be the Miami Dolphins. And normally I have the Dolphins taking Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase here, but both guys are gone. But they still need a receiver. Jalen Waddle was on his way to have a better season than Devontae Smith. And he's so much more explosive as a receiver. And prior to that ankle injury, I'm telling you, he was balling out. Again, the goal is to always put the quarterback in the best position to be successful. That is the number 1 goal. Give him as many weapons as possible. So give him Jalen Waddle. You know, in the last 2 off seasons, you've spent money in free agency. You added guys like Byron Jones and Emmanuel Ogbah. And then in the 2020 draft, you added defensive pieces like Rayshawn Davis and Jason Strowbridge and Curtis Weaver and Noah Igbenogany. You added those guys to your defense to see if that can help you. But I just think at this point, you have to go ahead and get the most dynamic wide receiver on the board, the most dynamic skill position on the board, and that's going to be Jalen Waddle. So then we get to pick 7 with the Detroit Lions, and if you guys have noticed already, there have been no trades. There have been no trades. This draft reminds me a lot of last year's draft in 2020, where there wasn't a lot of movement going on. A lot of teams just kind of sat where they were and just got their player. You know, got the player that they had wanted. And I feel like we're going to see some of that in this draft just because the amount of offensive players, you know, will allow teams to sit there at their pick. So, for example, let's say Miami at 18, right? Miami does need a pass rusher, right? So if there was a dominant pass rusher here and Miami wanted him, they could jump. But because there's not a dominant pass rusher, Miami can sit here. Like, let's, you know, hypothetically speaking, this is the Draft Network's predictive board or whatever that we're using. But look, Jalen Phillips is the 18th ranked edge rusher. The Dolphins pick at 18. Like, so you don't have to move to get a good player. You can just stay where you are. And that's why there have been no trades so far. And it's not going to be a trade here either because the Detroit Lions have the worst wide receiving core in the entire NFL. Like, people, they're awful, right? Now, I know people think Devontae Smith is a skinny wide receiver who's going to get hurt, but I don't see it. I don't like the idea that, oh, because you're thin, you're going to get hurt. Like as if you came in at 210, you wouldn't get hurt. Like, an ACL is an ACL. That can tear on anybody. That can tear on me, and I don't even play football, right? So I don't like this idea that we can't take the smaller player because he's going to get hurt. CeeDee Lamb was getting upended all season on over routes and deep overs and, you know, and post routes and getting up and talking trash to the defenders because they've always been this size and they've been dominant at this size. You think it's going to change because suddenly they're bigger linebackers? No, they're going to get bigger. They're going to get stronger. They're going to get faster. They're going to run an NFL route tree. They're going to be as successful. Like, it's not like wide receivers stop growing when they get to the NFL. I don't understand that logic. You know, well, he gets to the NFL, he's going to get hit across the middle by John Bostic. And it's like, well, when John Bostic came into the league, he wasn't John Bostic. He had to get better. He had to become a better linebacker. Devontae Smith's going to become a better wide receiver in an NFL weight room. I don't understand why that logic doesn't work with Devontae Smith. I don't get that. That really, kind of grinds my gears a little bit, as you can tell. Pick 8, the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Panthers, of course, in my mock draft 2.0 went up to get a quarterback, but they have a quarterback and they've elected to flip the 5th-year option on Sam Darnold, and that's cool. I thought that trading for Sam was a really smart move. Everyone looks good away from Adam Gase. But the Panthers' offensive line hasn't really been a priority for a long time. So I think they're going to go ahead and take, Penei Sewell here to come down to Charlotte and be the bookend left tackle for the next decade. Let Sam have time to throw to DJ and Robbie and hand off to Christian McCaffrey. And you never know, Sam might be your quarterback of the future. He's due a lot of money next year, with a new contract. You have to determine whether or not was it an Adam Gase issue or is Sam Darnold just not good. Now, I'll go ahead and turn the pick in here. So Denver's on the clock, and at this point, I have to feel like the Chargers are working the phones, right? Because the Chargers are like, okay, we're at 13. Dallas has an aging offensive line. The Giants can use its left tackle. Jason Peters is retiring in Philadelphia. Philadelphia doesn't really have a good offensive line. No, don't really have good tackles, excuse me. So they're kind of feeling like, okay, we have to go. But Denver's not moving because Trey Lance is there at 9. And Denver is not getting away from this quarterback. And I know people will say, well, these teams don't need quarterbacks. Yeah, I understand, but New England does. And so if let's say the Chargers move and then New England jumps up with Dallas, then Trey Lance goes to New England and Denver misses their quarterback. And you're missing your quarterback for what, a 3rd round pick? Like, I just don't think that makes sense to pick up a 3rd and miss out on the franchise quarterback. So Trey Lance goes here. Now, here's where I believe the Chargers are going to strike, right? Because if you're Dallas, you want to look at the whole board if you're Dallas for a moment and just think. So let's say you go down to 13, right? And let's say the Chargers come up, they take Rayshawn Slater, right? Fine. If they take Rayshawn Slater, right, you have the opportunity to land Patrick Surtain II, Micah Parsons, J.C. Horn. You can get your left tackle to replace Tyron Smith in a few years. You could get, a guard to replace Connor Williams. You could get an edge rusher. Hell, you could even move down. Like, you can do whatever you want with this pick. But because you have all those names available, you feel good about trading down. So the Chargers, really what you do is you kind of bait the Chargers into saying, like, okay, look, our tackle's getting old. We could use a guard upgrade. And you bait them pretty much into getting more capital to get them to come up. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our first trade here. It's going to be the Chargers coming up with the Cowboys. And what they're going to do is they're going to swap ones, right? And they're going to give up 97 and 159. And we'll see if that's enough to get it done according to the trade chart. So the Cowboys are going to evaluate the offer. They're going to accept. So the Cowboys move down 3 spots and they pick up 97 and 159. Now, according to the trade chart, it's actually not enough. It needs to be more. But I just felt that, 97 and 159 is probably the more realistic thing to do here. So the Los Angeles Chargers are on the clock here, and they're going to go ahead and select Rayshawn Slater. People think Rayshawn Slater projects as a guard. It's whatever with the arm length. I don't really care about that. I just know that in 2019, he played 11 games and didn't allow a sack. He is the Chase Young whisperer. He was a preseason All-American, preseason All-Big Ten. He did opt out in 2020. He ran a 4.8 40 and weighed 304 pounds. He's athletic. He's great when it comes to pulling. He can play almost any position on the offensive line. He's really good. But what I really want to see with Rayshawn Slater is those matchups in camp against Joey Bosa, because I think Joey Bosa, being one of the best pass rushers in the league, will definitely help a guy like Rayshawn Slater become a better offensive tackle, or an offensive guard in the NFL. So Pick 11 here is going to be the New York Football Giants. I don't really have much to say here, except this is still going to be Micah Parsons because Tay Crowder stinks, and no pass rusher is going really in the top 15. Micah's a baller. He fits the Giants defense to a T. He did opt out, but I don't think that deters Gettleman from drafting a really good linebacker. He can pretty much run that defense, be the head coach of the defense, and make them better. So I'll go ahead and give them Micah Parsons. Pick 12. The Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock. And you have to kind of feel bad if you're the Eagles because it's like, well, Rashad Bateman's here, but nobody wants to take Rashad Bateman top 12. Kadarius Toney here, young Joka has all the guns in his car. Nobody wants that on their team. Rondale Moore has injury issues, and, it's just a little too early for wide receiver. So then you go to tight end, and you say, well, we need somebody to replace, Zach Ertz. But no tight end is, unless you're Kyle Pitts, you're not going in the first round. You look at corner, and you say, well, we could use a corner, but corner's not really your top need here, right? Wide receiver is. And linebacker. So I think the Philadelphia Eagles will, kind of wait around, and a team out in Arizona is going to give them a call. The Arizona Cardinals are going to come up with the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to swap 16 and 12 for a 5th round pick, which is 160. And they're going to move a 3rd next year to come up to get their guy. And the reason I have them getting their guy is because the guy that they want, he's probably not getting past Dallas. He's probably not getting past New England, right? Just because these are teams that really need defense, and so do the Cardinals. But the Cardinals need a position so badly. So they're willing to give up a 3 next year to come up with the Eagles. So we'll send this offer over. We'll see if they accept the offer. So the Eagles have accepted your offer. Fantastic. The Arizona Cardinals are going to come up to take the corner who ran a 4.46 40 and shut me up because I thought he couldn't run. I have my issues with this corner. I still believe this corner allows receivers to cross his face, and I need him to be more aggressive when it comes to breaking on the ball. But the Arizona Cardinals are going to replace Patrick Peterson with Patrick Surtain II. Easy replacement right there. The Cowboys are on the clock at 13 here. This doesn't really change here. This pick is going to be J.C. Horn. Like I said before, we all know about the Auburn tape. Dude's a bully. I've had him as CB1 since December. I just think because the fact that he played at South Carolina, people don't really want to tell him he's cornerback 1. But when he ran his stuff at his pro day, I was like, oh, I knew this already. I knew he was this good because he's been this good. But the only knock on him, of course, is that, he holds. Well, look, here's what you do. Take him to training camp, put boxing gloves on him. Since he's going to Dallas, put boxing gloves on him and let him get worked by Amari Cooper all camp. Just destroyed. You can't grab him. And once he understands that he has to use his feet and his hips to cover and his eyes to cover and not grabbing in his hands and being grabby, he's going to be fine. But I think this is the pick here. And I think they eventually get the holding problem, out of him because Dan Quinn's the perfect DC for that. He played with the slower corners in Seattle who really didn't hold, but were really aggressive at the same time. So I think this is the perfect situation here for young J.C. Horn. So pick 14, the Minnesota Vikings are on the clock, and not really much to say here. They say that safety is a top need because they did let Anthony Harris walk. But I mean, they brought in Xavier Woods, and that's not really saying much. Harrison Smith is getting old. So safety is a top need here. So they could potentially, move down a little bit and end up taking Trevonne Merrick before the Jaguars could possibly get him or something like that. But I still think that they have to get better on the offensive line. And I'm going to stick to my pick that I've had pretty much since mock draft 1.0. And that's Christian Darasol. He's just a dominant tackle. He is a left tackle. He's going to slide in and be the guy. And that's what you need if you still believe in Kirk Cousins or not. Like, you still need a guy to protect your quarterback. That's kind of the job of the left tackle. So New England's on the clock here, and New England does need a linebacker. So giving them Jeremiah Usu-Koramoah is really, really tempting. But I can't give them Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah because Mac Jones is on the clock or on the board here. And we're going to go ahead and give them Mac Jones. The Patriots, of course, did add pieces to their offense with guys like Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith and, Aguilar and, Aguilar when, like the guy said, when they were throwing babies out the window and he was catching them, unlike Aguilar, that Aguilar. So whether it's Cam or Mac Jones, it doesn't really matter. Mac comes from a system with a bunch of weapons, but he thrives on play action and the short to intermediate pass game, which is ironically what the Patriots love to do. So I think Mac Jones is the pick here. The Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock here. And again, it's still a little early for wide receiver. No tight ends. All the corners are kind of wiped out here. Greg Newsome could possibly go here. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to actually give the Philadelphia Eagles a linebacker. Now, I know in the previous mocks, it's been Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. But Jamin Davis is a linebacker out of Kentucky. Welcome to the NFL mock draft. So here's the thing, right? I've never done a second round mock draft, but Jamin Davis always ends up in the top 32 to 37 when I do them without, posting them to YouTube or whatever. He always falls around 32 to 37. And I finished film on him, and I had already seen the Ole Miss tape, and that put him at like pick 34, 35, right? But then I watched him play against Mississippi State and Tennessee and Vanderbilt, and I was like, oh, this dude is the second best linebacker in the draft behind Micah Parsons. Like, to hell with JOK. I'm like, this dude, why is nobody talking about this dude? And all of a sudden, this dude shoots up the boards, and everybody's talking about him in national media, and it's like, I guess everybody saw what I saw when we watched the rest of the tape, right? He has long speed. Like, he's 6'4", 235 at linebacker, and he is hellacious in coverage. Oh my goodness, he fills space, he gets deflections, he gets interceptions, he can do everything in coverage. He's just not that good against the run. He needs to get better against the run, but I think a guy like this really helps the Philadelphia Eagles on defense because realistically they have a terrible linebacking core, and I just think a pure linebacker like Jamin Davis is fits this team more so than this athletic linebacker / safety in JOK. So we're going to go ahead and give them Jamin Davis. The Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock here. We're going to go ahead and stick to what we've been doing. They're going to go ahead and select Trevonne Jenkins. He's just nasty. Blocks you out the play. I love Trevonne Jenkins. He's one of my favorite prospects. He has that Raiders attitude. You got to get better at right tackle. Colton Miller's okay, but solidify that right tackle spot with the right tackle like Trevonne Jenkins. So go ahead and give them Trevonne Jenkins here. And then pick 18, the Miami Dolphins are on the clock. And I mentioned it earlier. I said the Miami Dolphins are content with sitting at pick 18 and not jumping up to get a pass rusher because pass rushers are everyone has a problem with every pass rusher has an issue, right? And so everyone's content with just sitting there to take their edge rusher when they fall to them. So as you guys see, Jalen Phillips is top on this board here. And it's because Jalen Phillips may be the best pass rusher in the draft. But I trust Azeez Ojulari more. He is very raw. But if he develops his moves, he's going to be dominant. Has to get better against the run, which is one of the things that we're really talking about with a lot of these defensive ends and linebackers. They have to get better against the run when they come to the pros. So once he gets better against the pros and stops getting knocked out of the play on tape, he'll be okay. But the Dolphins add, like I said, another piece to their cheap and young defense with Byron and Igbenogany and all those guys. So you add a guy like Azeez Ojulari and groom him into a good pass rusher, then you're cooking with gas. I just don't see. I think the Miami Dolphins know about Jalen Phillips, and they're just kind of like, yeah, we're good on that. It's a lot here. It's a lot going on here. We'll talk about that later, though. So they go ahead and select Azeez Ojulari. Pick 19, the Washington football team is on the clock. So normally, I would throw in a guy like Sam Cosmi here just to help with the tackle position, but Washington has a really good defense, but there are holes on the defense, right? And they were aware of that because they went out and signed William Jackson III to be their number one corner. So they clearly knew where their weakness was on defense. But they have another weakness on defense that needs to be addressed, and it is the entire linebacking core. Every position of the linebacking core needs to be addressed, specifically the interior of the linebacking core, right? Because John Bostic is a free agent after 2021. Cole Holcomb is a free agent after 2022. You got to get better at middle linebacker, at inside linebacker. Now, the defense is going to be fine because they got pass rushers to get after them, so it don't matter who plays linebacker. But when you can get a super athletic guy who can cover, that is really important. Get a guy like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and add him to your linebacking core, and everything is a lot better for the defense. They're even better. They might finish number one behind the Rams or ahead of the Rams. So pick 20 is going to be the Chicago Bears. This remains consistent with what I said before. I still believe that the Chicago Bears are going to actually select Caleb Farley. I know that Caleb Farley still has the has the back problems and things like that, but I think he still ends up being a first round pick. The back injury wasn't really his first injury, as I said before. He had some medical history with an ACL injury, back spasms, enough injuries to cost him games. And so the microdiscectomy that he got is a procedure that is done for a herniated disc, and it relieves pressure on a spinal nerve. I said that's a gamble when you start talking about the spine. And then I questioned in Mock Draft 2.0 why he waited so long to get surgery, and then it hit me. He was doing something, and he got injured. I don't know if he was lifting weights or if he was running, but something happened that caused him to get surgery because he hasn't done anything in a year. So it's not like, oh, my back hurts for 364 days and then suddenly you want to get surgery. That's not how it works. Like if something's pushing on your nerve, you're going to get surgery to get it fixed. So what happened? That's what I want to know. But I still believe Caleb Farley goes in the first round here. If he was healthy, he probably would have been, possibly here at 12 to Arizona or maybe 13 to Dallas or something like that. Maybe even earlier. Who knows? Maybe to Philly. So the next pick, first let's go ahead and select Caleb Farley. The next pick here is going to be the Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts are on the clock here, and the Colts are kind of looking, they say, well, Sam Cosmi's here and Eichenberg's here and, Dillon's here and Leatherwood and Mayfield Christensen from BYU. And they say, well, we're really feeling good about the offensive tackle depth, right? So Kevin Colbert go ahead and gives a call to Chris Ballard, and the Pittsburgh Steelers go ahead and come up here with the Indianapolis Colts. The Steelers are going to go ahead and give up 24. They're going to swap 24 for 1, and they're going to give up a 4th round pick according to the trade chart here. And the Steelers are going to jump because the Steelers have a massive hole in the secondary. They lost a lot of snaps and a lot of interceptions and pass deflections, with letting, Mike Hilton and Nelson leave the secondary. And so you go ahead and you add a guy like Greg Newsome, who is super fluid and athletic, turns his hips. He excels in man coverage. He can play zone. He does everything. He's locked down. And you go ahead and take him out of Northwestern. So then you get to pick 22. The Tennessee Titans are on the clock here. Rashad Bateman is a very interesting pick because a lot of people thought Rashad Bateman was going to run in the low 4.4s into the 4.5s, but he ran a 4.39. It's like, where did that come from? I didn't see that on tape. So the Titans let Corey Davis walk, and so I'll give them Rashad Bateman just to pair them, pair him up with A.J. Brown, with Derrick Henry in the backfield. That's a hell of an offense. He stands 6'1", 210. He had 147 catches and 2,300 yards, in 31 games. He's a great option for Tennessee. He's going to be a very solid number 2 receiver in that Titans offense. So the New York Jets are on the clock here. As I said before, NFL teams don't really value running back anymore, and I don't really like that because I think running backs are still a very important position, especially when you can get a really good running back. People believe running backs are a dime a dozen, and I don't know if I agree with that. So Robert Saleh is going to come to New York, and Robert Saleh loves to run the football. He believes that running the football and keeping the defense fresh is the best way to have success in the National Football League. That is what they did in San Francisco. That is what they're going to do in New York. The problem is you don't have a running back in New York. So in order to run the offense that you believe in and that you think is successful, you have to get a running back. That running back, as I said before, is going to be Najee Harris. Najee Harris has gone off the board here, and the Indianapolis Colts are back on the clock. They're going to stay here and get their guy that they've wanted all along. That guy is going to be Sam Cosmi, the offensive tackle out of Texas. Braden Smith didn't allow a sack all season. He's the right tackle for the Colts, and there isn't a discussion to be had about whether or not he can play because he can. Now, on the other side, there is a discussion about the left tackle because Anthony Costanzo is retiring after 10 seasons. That's 10 seasons, 144 starts. That's a massive hole that's being left. Quickly fill that hole with Sam Cosmi, who played 30 games at tackle, 14 at right, 21 at left. So the position you want him to play is the position that he's more experienced at. So it's perfect for you. Of course, he does get high at times in his blocks that we talked about before, but he's an okay tackle. He needs some more development, but I think he's a guy that's worthy of going in the first round. So, as I said about the next pick here, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars, I had mentioned that Trevonne Merrick would be a great pick here. I mentioned that any position is worthy of being a first rounder, minus any special teams position or whatever, right? And I still believe that because this pick here is going to be Trevonne Merrick. He came from a really good, TCU secondary, and again, he stands out on film. Is Ardarius Washington a better player? Maybe, but I don't think he was taking 5'8" safeties in the first round of an NFL draft. He did become one of the top safeties, though, in 2019. Merrick was voted All Big 12, first team. In 2020, he was AP second team All-American, one top DB, first team All-Conference pick as a junior, had 6 picks and 20 PBUs in the last 22 games, which is better than a cornerback like Eric Stokes we talked about before. Merrick is a really good safety, and I think he brings a lot of value to the Jacksonville Jaguars at a position of need. So, pick 26, the Cleveland Browns are on the clock, and of course they were in the J.J. Watt sweepstakes, and they've really been trying to add a piece, opposite Myles Garrett to continue to get after the quarterback. So, here we go. Jalen Phillips, the best pass rusher in the entire draft, as I said before. Elite athleticism. He could stand up. He could put his hand in the dirt. He was a number 1 prospect in his recruiting class. But he had a bunch of concussions, retired medically, transferred, sat out a year, played 1 season at Miami, had a moped accident, has 3 concussions, and he just turned 21. An ankle injury as a freshman, surgeries on his wrist. It's the injuries could push him to the second round, but the elite athleticism and these traits make me feel better about him than Gregory Rousseau, because the only thing that's the only reservations that I have about Jalen Phillips are the injuries. That's it. When it comes to the player, I don't have any problems with him. I just don't know if he can hold up. That's it. But as far as being a pass rusher, yeah, he's going to be my edge rusher here. He's going to go to the Cleveland Browns. So, pick 27, the Baltimore Ravens are on the clock here, and wide receiver is definitely a position of need for the Ravens. But as I mentioned before, this is a really deep draft. Of course, you have Kadarius Toney, who is potentially available here at pick 27, Terrace Marshall, Elijah Moore, Rondale Moore, Amari Rodgers, De'Ami Brown, Dwayne Eskridge, Tylan Wallace, who is a very good receiver out of Oklahoma State, Tutu Atwell, Frank Darby. There are quite a few, receivers that you could potentially get in the second, third, fourth, and fifth round of the NFL draft that could be, actual pieces for you. So because of that, I think that the Ravens, have to replace Matt Judon. They have to get a consistent pass rusher, and they're going to go Kwity Paye. My Toyota Sienna is back. My strong and reliable minivan. And, it's like, you have a work car. You know how, like, when you were growing up and you had school clothes and you had play clothes? Kwity Paye is like the play clothes. He gets down and dirty. He's not really anything special. He's just kind of there, and that's it. Like, it's just nothing special. He's a minivan, right? My issue with Kwity Paye, and it's my issue that I have with a lot of defensive linemen that come out of Michigan, right? There's only one Michigan lineman in the last decade that's been worth the damn, and it's been Frank Clark. It is what it is. That's what it's been. I mean, I'm not being disrespectful, but I don't believe that, Chris Wormley and Taco Charlton and Chase Winovich are dominant pass rushers. I'm sorry, I don't, right? But Kwity Paye is going to be in a position like them where I don't believe Kwity Paye is ever going to be Shaq Barrett and get you 18 sacks. I don't believe that. But I think he can be a solid edge rusher for you. I don't know what it is about Michigan, but they don't really pump out a lot of good pass rushers. But they're definitely going to pump out Kwity Paye here to the Baltimore Ravens. So, and there's also a little connection here because who coaches the Ravens and who coaches the University of Michigan? Think about that. So, pick 28, the New Orleans Saints are on the clock here. And again, as I mentioned to Saints fans before, the best thing you can hope for is that your team bails out of the first round and you collect a bunch of second, third, and fourth round picks, because the amount of holes you have on your team with that cap space, you have to build your team, through the draft. So we're going to have the Bills swap 30 and 28, and Buffalo is also going to throw in 161 and 174 to get it done according to the trade chart. So New Orleans picks up 2 5s, to go down 2 spots. I mean, that's a really good deal. So we'll go ahead and send this offer over, and the Saints will go ahead and accept the offer as the Buffalo Bills are coming up to get their guy in Christian Barmore. As I said before, Barmore had 8 sacks at D tackle, and he showed up in the college football playoff. He's a really good tackle. I just don't think he's really good against the run. Having 9.5 tackles for loss is really good, but when 4 of those came in 2 games, it's not really a good thing. 5.5 came, through the rest of the season. And you watch his tape against Mississippi State and Kentucky and Florida and Tennessee, he only has half a tackle for loss in those games combined. That's scary to me as far as being a defensive tackle. You have to be somewhat decent against the run. He thrives against the pass, though. 65 quarterback pressures in 2 seasons at D tackle. There are edge rushers that don't even have that. So that puts you in the first round. So he ends up going to Buffalo here. Pick 29 is going to be the Green Bay Packers. They're going to select Terrace Marshall, the wide receiver out of LSU. The Packers are a really good football team, but I think they need to continue to add pieces to Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers is the guy that you still want to have at quarterback, give him a receiver. He needs it. Now, the Packers have been in a little bit of a situation these past few years because Aaron Rodgers has been very vocal about his future and what he thinks is going to happen, because it seems like the Packers are not wanting to commit to Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers, and I do want to put this out to not necessarily defend Aaron Rodgers, but to clear some things up. Like, Aaron Rodgers talking about his future didn't start when they drafted Jordan Love. He had been talking about it. He mentioned it when the season ended prior to drafting Jordan Love. So like he's known what this has been about with the Packers. Doesn't really have anything to do with Jordan Love, right? So Mark Murphy got questioned about Aaron Rodgers and his contract, and he didn't answer the questions. He deflected. So Rodgers then went on Pat McAfee's show on April 5th and said that he's at peace with everything. It's out of his control. You know, he said he feels like he played his best and that's all he can do. You know, now do the Packers have an out after the 2021 season? Yes, because after this season, it's only a $17 million dead cap hit to release him. If you're not going to add pieces to the team to help him and help you get over the NFC title hump, then, you know, cut him after this season, take the $17 million cap hit, and let him go and try to win somewhere else. Because if you're not ready to commit to Aaron Rodgers to help him win another championship, then he doesn't need to be the quarterback anymore. Tom Brady left New England and won a Super Bowl, right? Like, that's how good he is. You know, if you believe in him, give him weapons. So we're going to go ahead and give him Terrace Marshall. I just don't think that Aaron Rodgers has the energy to deal with a Kadarius Toney. Like, I just don't think that Green Bay as an organization wants a guy like Kadarius Toney who comes with stupid off the field issues. So I just think Terrace Marshall is a safer pick. The Saints are back on the clock here. The Saints are going to bail again, as we talked about in Mock Draft 2.0, when the Miami Dolphins jump up to the Saints pick here. They're going to swap with the Saints. Saints are going to give up 30. The Dolphins are going to give up 36, 156, and they're going to do a 4 next year, which would be more than enough to get the Saints to bail and pick up a pick this year and a pick next year. So the Dolphins do come back up to get Travis Etienne. As we said before, it's all about putting Tua in the position to be successful. Get you a running back cheap for 5 years. Pair that up with Waddle, you know, Gesicki and Parker. That's putting your quarterback in a position to be successful. Add a dynamic back like Etienne, of course, who in 2018 and 2019 rushed for over 1,600 yards in each season. He played 12 games and almost had 1,000 yards, you know, in the 2020 season. You know, so he's a very electric running back, and I think he definitely helps a guy like Tua and the Dolphins offense as a whole. The Kansas City Chiefs here. Now, the Chiefs are in a little bit of a situation for me because, you know, these wide receivers are very tempting. You know, I giving Patrick Mahomes a guy like Kadarius Toney, you know, because, you know, Andy Reid has experiences working with crazy receivers. But a guy like Kadarius Toney is so freaking explosive, and he would just fit this offense to a T. But at the end of the day, it's all about protecting Patrick Mahomes. That's what it's about. That's why you signed Mike Rimmers. That's why you signed Joe Thuney to that 5-year deal for a whole bunch of money. They were tooling the line. Liam Eichenberg is a very consistent offensive lineman, the road grader and against the run. Kind of struggles against speed rushers, but I definitely think he can get better at that. Give Mahomes his offensive line back, and he's not running for his life anymore. You got to protect your highest paid asset. If you guys can't tell, that is what I care about. I care about protecting the asset. When you pay a guy a whole bunch of money, you better put a bunch of stuff around him to make him successful and to keep him upright. Because if you don't, then paying him was in vain. You know, if you have a quarterback that you believe is your guy, make sure he's successful. Don't hinder him. Don't be Charlie Casserly with David Carr and not give him offensive linemen. Don't do that. You know, draft offense, draft skill positions, draft running backs, draft tackles. Make sure the most important person on the team gets the opportunity to be good. That's logic. That's common sense. I don't think that takes rocket science. So, pick 32. The Bucs are on the clock here. And the Bucs do need interior defensive line help. You know, I don't really like Levi Onwuzurike to Tampa. I don't like that fit personally. I think a guy like you know, Togiai or Nixon or Shelvin or McNeil will fit them better. They also could use a receiver, but yeah, I mean, the Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, I think you have plenty of receivers. I don't think, you know, I think just drafting a receiver here is a luxury. You know, I think it's a little too early for the interior offensive lineman as well. I do think it's a little, I don't think it's too early for Elijah Vera Tucker necessarily, but I believe Elijah Vera Tucker will end up playing guard, and Tampa has some pretty decent guards. Landon Dickerson, he's here as well, but those injuries kind of concern me. Wyatt Davis is going to be a center. They have Ryan Jensen at center. So the Bucs are actually not going to pick here. I mentioned earlier that I had something up my sleeve for the Buccaneers, right? Or for the Bengals. So the Bengals are going to move pick 38 and a 4th round pick to Tampa. And they're doing this because they want to come up to get an offensive lineman. So the Cincinnati Bengals are going to send this offer over. We're going to see if they actually like the offer. The Bucs like the offer. Great. Okay, so the Bengals are on the clock here, and they need offensive tackle, and they need interior offensive line. The Bengals have jumped back into the 1st round because they're going to select Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. Vera Tucker got most of his snaps at left tackle for USC in 2020 and most at left guard in 2019. He's versatile. He is the right size for an offensive lineman, but the problem is he has short arms. His arms are a little bit shorter than Rayshawn Slater's, and Rayshawn Slater is already being projected as a guard in the league, and he has longer arms than Vera Tucker. So I believe he's going to project better as a left guard in the NFL, and it works out well because you have Michael Jordan, who played 731 snaps at left guard, and you have Su'a-Filo, who played 300 snaps at right guard. And I think Vera Tucker can slide into either position, but I believe he's going to be a better left guard than a right guard personally. So that's going to be the pick here. Is going to be Elijah Vera Tucker. So we're going to run the draft from the bottom here with Trevor Lawrence going to Jacksonville, Zach Wilson going to the New York Jets, Justin Fields going 3rd to the 49ers, Kyle Pitts going to the Atlanta Falcons, Chase to the Bengals, Waddle to the Dolphins, Smith to the Lions, 3 receivers in a row, Penei Sewell to Carolina, Lance to Denver. Denver doesn't have to move to get him. Slater moves up to pick 10. Chargers trade up with Dallas. Parsons goes 11. Surtain goes 12 after a trade up with the Eagles. The Cowboys will select J.C. Horn. The Vikings will select Christian Darasol. Mac Jones goes 15 to New England, where he's a perfect fit. Jamin Davis jumps into the 1st round here and goes to Philadelphia. Tevin Jenkins to the Raiders, Ojulari to the Dolphins, JOK to the Washington football team. Caleb Farley goes to Chicago. Greg Newsome II, the very fluid corner, goes to Pittsburgh. Rashad Bateman goes to play opposite A.J. Brown in Tennessee. Najee Harris helps Robert Saleh solidify his offense with running the ball and keeping the defense fresh. Sam Cosmi goes to Indianapolis to replace Anthony Costanzo. Merrick, the safety out of TCU, goes to play safety in Jacksonville. Jalen Phillips, with his injuries, somehow jumps into the 1st round because he's the best pure pass rusher in the draft. If he can be healthy, he could be a very good player in the league. He goes to Cleveland. My Toyota Sienna, Kwity Paye, he goes 27 to the Baltimore Ravens. The Bills trade up with the Saints again to select Christian Barmore. Terrace Marshall goes to Green Bay. Travis Etienne goes to Miami. Liam Eichenberg goes to Kansas City. And Elijah Vera Tucker goes to play guard in Cincinnati. And that is going to conclude Mock Draft 3.0. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Try to keep it under an hour. I think we might have done that. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and we're going to be back. Who knows? Maybe we might even have a 2nd round to this Mock Draft 3.0. But hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you guys smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you guys share the mock draft on your social media and all that stuff. Make sure you guys follow me on social media. ItsMeJase _ everything's in the description. The song that's playing over the video is in the description as well. But I hope you guys enjoy the mock. We'll be back again with another mock real soon. Y'all be good.